Okay, Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi, salam Jumaat, good morning. So before we start, sebelum kita start, boleh masuk, you can actually browse to the interactive slides to actually register yourself. The interactive slides is actually UMPSA AIsuperpower.my. Okay, so let me just actually type AMPSA pula. Sekejap. UMPSA. Okay. Go to the site and you should be able to view the interactive slides. Okay, dah masukkan link yang betul. Okay. So basically, the registration will be online via actually the interactive slides. Some of the activities can be done via the interactive slides. Boleh masuk sekali. After the session, the forms is in the interactive slides. Just fill up the form, give us your feedback. And then once you actually submit, give us around actually 1 week to actually reply with your certification, a copy of the slides handout, and also the video of actually this session, right? It will be given as part of the email for the certification. Now, very important, once you are in this site, click proceed to registration, key in your full name. Ada orang dia tak key in full name dia. So bila dia punya cert keluar, when they didn't key in their full name and we generated actually their cert, it is wrong. Okay? So key in your full name, key in your university email, very important. Gmail or personal email will be automatically rejected. We have actually a system back end, we have a process actually back end that only takes the university email. And then select your university and your faculty and click register to start the workshop. Okay. All right. Again, please access the interactive slides through umpsa.aisuperpower.my. You will get this page. Click register and key in all the information and click register and start workshop. Right. Attendance will be taken through this registration form. Now, you can actually browse through the interactive slides while actually listening to the webinar in the background. You can refer to the webinar time when we have actually some demonstration. Otherwise, you can actually just listen to it on in the background while you are interacting with the slides. Okay? All right. Okay, I think we can actually start. Again, please access the slides through umpsa.ai superpower.my and then key in all your information and then click register to actually start workshop. Saya tengok ada orang dah. Yes, we have actually a few people dah start keying in. Tapi tak banyak. Baru dalam 20 orang. Ya, the rest please register. Lepas register nanti boleh dapat cert. Okay. Some have started actually to do the activity. Tunggu dulu buat sama-sama. Okay. Alright. So let's actually begin. So the facilitator today will be Cikgu Zakaria. She is an AI teacher. So I will actually be her assistant. My name is Azhan Abdullah, and we will actually be tag teaming for the session today. Macam wrestling, tag team. Alright? Okay. So let's actually start.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone and welcome. I'm Cikgu Zakaria, your AI teacher, and together with my assistant, Encik Azhan, we'll be guiding you throughout today's session as we explore Gemini, Gemini Notebook, and a few practical AI workflows together. For the next 2 hours, this is going to be a very hands-on and relaxed workshop. We'll try things, experiment a little, and hopefully discover where these tools can genuinely support teaching, research, preparation, and daily academic work. Then, after the live session, there'll be a short self-paced wrap-up that you need to complete before claiming your certificate. So maybe open Gemini in another tab, get comfortable, maybe coffee nearby, and let's begin, yeah? So, before we begin properly, let's quickly look at what we'll be exploring together today. There are two main playgrounds in this session. First, we'll build our own custom gem, a reusable AI assistant with persistent instructions that can support repetitive academic tasks more consistently. Then, we'll connect a gem with Gemini Notebook and explore how a single set of sources can be transformed into different output formats, including a graphic novel workflow that's surprisingly practical for teaching and student engagement. And for those curious about Canvas games or Gemini in workspace tools like Docs, Gmail, and Sheets, those may become part of a future face-to-face follow-up session if one happens. For today, don't worry too much about getting everything perfect, okay? Focus on experimenting, exploring, and building confidence step by step. A few years ago, AI still felt very experimental for most educators. Interesting, but maybe not something we used every day. But now, things are a bit different, yeah? These tools are becoming part of normal academic work, whether for lesson preparation, research support, feedback, administration, or content creation. So, the real question today is no longer should we use AI? It's more about understanding which tool works best for which task and how to use it responsibly, effectively, and with confidence. All right, before we go deeper, let's quickly look at the four main tools in the Gemini ecosystem and what each one is generally good at. Gemini app is your everyday AI workspace. Brainstorming, writing, planning, summarizing, and conversations. Gemini Notebook is more research focused. It works with your own sources and materials, which makes it especially useful for academic and teaching workflows. Workspace AI brings Gemini directly into tools many of us already use daily, like Docs, Gmail, and Sheets. And finally, AI Studio is more for experimentation and app building, something you can explore later once you become more comfortable with the ecosystem. For today, our main focus will be Gemini and Gemini Notebook, yeah? One of the most common reasons people feel disappointed with AI is actually using the wrong tool for the wrong task. If you just need brainstorming or quick content generation, Gemini app is usually enough. If you're analyzing papers or working with multiple references, Gemini Notebook becomes much more useful. Already working inside Docs or Gmail, then Workspace makes the workflow smoother without switching platforms. So today, don't just focus on prompts alone, yeah? Focus on learning the tool map, because once that becomes clear, everything else feels much easier. Now, this part is quite important because AI tools are changing very quickly, and sometimes the way we think about AI is still based on older systems. Previously, most AI tools worked one prompt at a time. We ask a question, the AI gives an answer, and that's about it. But newer models, especially with agentic capabilities, can actually plan steps, check information, interact with tools, and sometimes even revise their own responses along the way. So, as educators, our role is also evolving a bit, yeah? We're not only checking the final answer anymore, we also need to understand and evaluate the process behind it. Because sometimes the process tells us more than the answer itself.
Cikgu, tumpang tanya cikgu. Can you give us actually some examples how agentic AI actually helps faculty members? I mean, just beyond actually just answering question lah.
Okay, sure. Selain daripada tapis email, agentic AI ni boleh tolong create draft rubrik pemarkahan dengan cepat. You just bagi learning outcome, then dia generatekan standard yang patut diguna lah. Ataupun dia boleh bantu design plan pengajaran untuk 14 minggu berdasarkan you punya syllabus. Jimat banyak masa kan? Ha.
Okay. So is Gem agentic?
Dia sebenarnya depends. Gem tu tools, tapi bila you set persistent instructions, bagi dia purpose dengan rules yang spesifik, time tu dia jadi makin agentic. Macam assistant yang faham preferences you lah. Nak saya bagi contoh gem yang lecturer boleh buat?
Yeah, but can you speak in English, cikgu?
Oh, yes, sure thing. For English, just think of a dedicated drafting buddy gem. You teach it your rubric style and tone, then every time you paste an assignment, it gives you consistent feedback based on your parameters. See? Saves lots of re explaining.
Okay. Any other examples of actually agentic that can actually help educators or faculty members?
Another one is creating personalized study guides. You upload lecture notes, documents, and the gem automatically generates quizzes, key terms, and even analogies. Think of it as a specialized tutor for your course, directly from your sources. Does that sound useful?
Yeah, all right. Thank you, cikgu.
Alright, let's try a small activity together. On the screen, you'll see a few common academic or lecturer tasks, and your job is to match each task with the AI tool that makes the most sense for it. Don't worry too much about getting every answer perfect straight away, okay? The goal here is simply to start building intuition, understanding which tool fits which kind of work. Sometimes the biggest improvement in using AI is not writing better prompts, but choosing the right tool from the beginning.
Okay, let's do our first activity for this morning. Simple aja, senang aja. We just learn about the tools, we just learn about what is classic LLM and what is actually agentic AI. So now, this is a very simple interactive activity. Just look at each lecturer's task and assign it to the tools. Okay. For example, synthesize 40 papers for literature review boleh tarik, boleh masukkan ke Gemini notebook kan. So start trying out actually the rest.
Okay, time for a quick check in before we continue. You'll see 5 short questions based on what we've explored in this first module. Just answer as best as you can. No pressure, yeah? If you get something wrong, that's perfectly fine. The system will show the explanation and the correct answer. So treat this more like part of the learning process rather than an exam. Take your time and let's see how we do.
Okay, we have a knowledge check for each module. Please actually answer the question. Tengok dapat ke tak. Now, all the questions from actually the modules are coming from the Google Gemini for Faculty certification exam. So this webinar is just a preliminary, something to actually set you up. So that you can actually then, after the session or during the face-to-face session, kalau ada, we can actually do the exam. Okay, so let me just enable you can actually change your slides. Kalau nak dark, boleh dark, nampak terang, nampak gelap sikit. I'm just going to use light and I'm just going to actually turn on actually the banner here. Right, let me just make the banner speed slower, so dia tak pening kepala sikit bila nampak. Okay, so siapa-siapa or whoever that just actually join, you can access to the interactive slides to the top URL umpsa.aisuperpower.my. Now we're going to actually turn off this banner later on, but we let the ones that just join in to actually see the message and able to access the slides. Yeah. Okay. So complete your knowledge check. Siapa dapat berapa point ni? You have 40 conference paper. So this is tadi kita dah try Gemini notebook. And then you want to draft a weekly welcome email. So this is Gemini Workspace inside Gmail. Okay, the rest we leave it to you guys lah, because the points will actually be derived from your knowledge check. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Cikgu, ready?
So before we continue, let's do a quick recap together. The important idea from this first module is that different AI tools are designed for different kinds of work. Once we understand the role of each tool, the whole ecosystem starts feeling much less confusing. Gemini is excellent for everyday interaction and idea generation. Notebook LM becomes powerful when working with sources and research materials. Workspace AI supports productivity directly inside familiar tools like Docs and Gmail. And honestly, a big part of using AI effectively is not just prompting well, but choosing the right tool for the right situation from the beginning. Alright, now let's move into prompting.
Okay, before we move to the next module, you can click update your score online. And it will update whatever you have actually scored online and will show the top 3 siapa yang dah score ni. Dah macam Kahoot dah. Wish ada orang yang dah lepas. Alright, let's proceed.
Alright, now we move into something that probably improves AI output more than anything else: prompting. Sometimes when people say AI gives weak answers or the output feels weird, actually the issue is not always the AI itself. Many times it's because the prompt is too broad, too vague, or missing important context. So in this section, we're going to explore a simple framework used in the Google Certified Gemini Educator Program called PADS. And honestly, once you start structuring prompts properly, the difference in quality becomes very obvious very quickly. So let's explore it together step by step, yeah?
Cikgu, since you are an AI and I'm actually talking to you, I mean, is this actually prompting?
That's an interesting way to put it. It's close, yes. You're giving me instructions to get an outcome, just like when you type in the chat. The main difference is you're doing it through voice now, live, and I'm reacting dynamically.
Okay, okay. Since prompting is an instruction, boleh tolong order Grab tak? Hot chocolate ke?
I go, Cik Azhan. Technically, that's an instruction, but my prompt powers don't extend that far, you know? I can't actually order things for you. Maybe
Okay lah. Thank you.
By the end of this section, you'll understand why some AI responses feel too generic or not quite useful, even when the prompt seems okay at first glance. We'll explore the parts framework, learn how to guide Gemini more clearly, and also see how features like can help ground responses using your own files and materials. And hopefully by the end, you'll walk away with a few practical prompts you can immediately reuse for teaching, research, meetings, or daily academic tasks. Help me write a course introduction. This is one of the most common prompts educators type into AI tools. And yes, technically, the AI will respond. But many times, the result feels very generic, repetitive, overly formal, or somehow sounds impressive without actually saying very much. That's what we mean by mush, yeah? Something that looks okay on the surface but lacks clarity, specificity, personality, or practical value. Usually, this happens because the AI is trying to guess too many missing details on its own. So, in this section, we'll see how adding better structure and clearer context can completely change the quality of the output.
Cikgu, when we actually prompt, right, sometimes we say make it better or make it more beautiful. Is that considered mush prompt?
Oh, yes, that's exactly mushy prompting. When you say make it better, Gemini fills in the gaps with averages because it doesn't know who you are, who the audience is, or what better actually means to you. One example, help me make this rubric beautiful, might give you crazy colors, but asking for a markdown table with clear bands for year 3 students gives you something useful. See the difference? You're just leaving too much to average. That's why it's mush.
Yeah, okay. So AI is basically filling in the blanks. All right. Thanks, Cikgu.
So, this is the framework we'll be using throughout the workshop: parts. Each letter represents one important part of a strong prompt: persona, who the AI should behave as; aim, what you want it to do; recipient, who the output is for; theme, the topic or context; and structure, the format you want the response in. What's interesting is when one of these pieces is missing, the AI usually fills the gap with assumptions. And that's often where generic or unreliable output starts appearing. Another very useful habit is adding a negative constraint. Something like do not invent citations or ask for clarification if information is missing. Small instructions like these can make AI output much more reliable and much more suitable for academic work, yeah?
So, Cikgu, yang tadi I was asking you to actually order Grab tu is because your instruction have negative constraint ke?
Yes, exactly. My instructions prevent me from making up actions that I can't actually do, like ordering Grab. It's about being realistic about what AI can perform.
Okay. Can you actually give an example of actually why persona is actually really important?
Think of it like this, Cik Azhan. If you just say explain photosynthesis, the AI might give you a dry, super technical definition. But if you add the persona, a friendly primary school teacher, explaining to 10-year-olds, suddenly the explanation becomes simple, maybe with an analogy, and very different. The persona changes the whole tone and content, you see?
Okay. I mean, what about actually recipient? I mean, the audience. Is it actually really important that we specify that?
Oh, definitely. The recipient really guides the complexity and vocabulary. Example again, explaining a research paper abstract to first year undergraduates is totally different from writing it for a fellow researcher in your field. Knowing who's reading it helps tailor the message perfectly. Make sense?
Okay. I mean, in the last class, actually, somebody asked about actually aim. I mean, is aim something that is actually really mandatory when we actually do a prompt?
I'd say it's pretty crucial, yes. The aim is the whole point. Without a clear goal, Gemini might give you something generic. Like if you say, write about recursion, that's different from saying, write me a lesson plan to teach beginners recursion using a specific example.
Okay, so without a proper aim, nanti dia ke laut lah.
Exactly. Either telawat or very generic. Not very helpful for your teaching, right?
All right. Thank you, Cikgu. Clarified.
All right, let's try building a prompt together. On the screen, you'll see several blocks, and your task is to arrange the correct ones into the parts framework. A few distractors are included as well, so don't worry if you need to think for a moment. The goal of this activity is not memorization actually. It's to help you start recognizing the structure behind effective prompts until eventually it becomes something natural when interacting with AI tools. Take your time and have a bit of fun with it, yeah?
All right. So let's try this activity again. Drag and drop. Try it out. See if you get it actually right. Macam tadi kan, kita dah try persona, right? So persona is this act as an experienced Malaysian University lecturer. Now, you can actually try the rest, and after you completed it, click check my prompt. Okay, let's proceed.
On this slide, you'll see several practical prompts that educators commonly use. Lecture outlines, student email replies, marking rubrics, meeting summaries, and also source-grounded prompts using @filename. Don't worry about memorizing them word for word, okay? Think of these more like reusable templates or starting points that you can adapt to your own context later. The important thing is understanding the structure behind the prompts. Because once the structure becomes clear, writing effective prompts becomes much easier and much more consistent. No rush on this one, yeah? Later, tonight, this weekend, whenever, open Gemini, pick one prompt from the 7 you just saw, and try it on something real from your own week. Paste it in, swap the placeholders, run it. Then, and this is the part most people miss, reply with make it sharper, 30% shorter. Iterate, don't restart. 5 minutes whenever you're ready. Okay, before we continue, let's do a quick check-in on this section. You'll see 5 short questions related to prompting, the parts framework, and some of the techniques we just explored together. Don't worry too much about getting every answer perfect, yeah? The goal is simply to reinforce the main ideas and help the structure become more familiar the more we practice it. Take your time and let's see how we do.
Okay, so we have the knowledge check for module 2. Macam biasa, kindly try out the knowledge check. Tengok how you fare.
So before we move into the next section, let's quickly recap the main ideas from this module. Good prompting is really about giving the AI enough context, direction, and structure to work with clearly. And the parts framework helps us do that much more consistently. We also saw how negative constraints can reduce hallucinations, how add mentions help ground responses using our own files, and why refining prompts step by step usually works better than restarting from zero every time. And honestly, once prompting becomes more structured, AI starts feeling much more reliable, much more practical, and much less random. Alright, now let's move on and build our first gem together, yeah? Okay, and now we move into one of the more interesting parts of Gemini, gems. Think of gems like customized AI assistants with their own instructions, behavior, and specialization. Instead of repeating the same context every single time, we can actually create an assistant that already understands how we like to work. And in this section, we're going to build one together step by step, something practical that you can genuinely reuse later for conferences, planning, or academic preparation. By the end of this section, you'll understand what gems are, how they work, and how they can help reduce repetitive prompting in your daily workflow, yeah? We'll also build a simple gem together, explore the structure behind a good instruction set, and see how these assistants can be shared or reused across different academic tasks. And hopefully by the end, you'll start imagining a few gems that could genuinely save you time in your own teaching or administrative work, yeah? So, what exactly is a gem? A gem is basically a customized version of Gemini with persistent instructions. Instead of explaining your preferences, tone, or workflow every single time you start a conversation, you define it once and the gem remembers how it should behave. You can think of it almost like a reusable AI assistant for a specific purpose, maybe for lesson planning, conference preparation, student communication, or even administrative tasks. And honestly, once you start using gems properly, you realize how much repetitive prompting can actually be reduced.
So, Cikgu, I mean, you sold me in terms of actually gem, but one question, I mean, from the previous class juga, when is actually a gem is an overkill?
Oh, that's a fair question. A gem becomes overkill when it's for just a one off task. If you're never going to ask Gemini to do that thing again, creating and saving a whole gem is unnecessary. Just type it in the main chat directly that time. Gems are best for when you need consistency over time.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Now let's look at what actually makes a gem work well. Inside every good gem instruction, there are usually a few important parts. identity, purpose, behavior rules, negative constraints, and sometimes an example output. The identity tells Gemini who it should behave as. The purpose explains the job. The behavior rules shape the tone and workflow. And the negative constraints are very important for academic work, yeah? Things like do not invent references or ask for clarification if information is missing. And honestly, examples help a lot because instead of guessing what we want, the gem can follow a clearer pattern from the beginning. Before we build a gem, let's simulate this one, yeah? No need to open Gemini yourself, just watch. First, version 1, the bear ask. If you prompt Gemini with plan me a 4-day holiday itinerary for Penang without any context at all, Gemini just guesses. You get something touristy, generic, the kind of itinerary anyone could get. Now, let's do version 2. After the first prompt, we add the next one, what Gemini didn't have. Family of 4, halal food only, driving from KL, not too rushed. Redo it with that in mind. Better already, right? Yeah, but is it enough? Now watch this, version 3. One more follow-up. Fix the format, day by day, real dish names, kampung over touristy, and remember all of this for the rest of the conversation. Now it finally works. But look at that chat thread. 3 rounds just to get here. And next month for Langkawi, you'd start from 0 and type it all again. That is what we're about to kill. So yes, technically the prompt approach works. But look at how much information we already needed to type just to get a decent itinerary. Family preferences, halal requirements, transport style, budget, formatting preferences, travel pace, and probably more if we continue refining it. And the bigger issue is consistency. Every new trip means repeating the same context again. Every new chat starts from 0. And if another lecturer or family member wants to use the same setup, we can't easily share the workflow properly. So this is where gems become powerful. Instead of rebuilding the context every single time, we save the preferences, rules, and behavior once, and Gemini remembers them for future conversations. Now, let's solve the problem properly by turning this into a gem. Open Gemini in a new tab, go to Gem Manager and click New Gem. For this demo, we're building a gem called Cuti-cuti mana a travel planning assistant that already understands our preferences before we even start chatting. Now, notice something important in the instruction on the right. All the repeated context we kept typing earlier, family details, halal preferences, travel style, formatting rules, now lives inside the gem itself. Which means next time, instead of writing a huge prompt again, we can simply type something like 4 days in Penang or short trip to Ipoh during school holidays. And the gem already knows how to respond.
Okay, so let's do this live build. Let's actually create a gem. So the gem that we are creating today will actually be a travel itinerary gem. Quite simple. The reason that we choose it is because everybody can actually relate to it, and the structure is almost the same if you want to do different kind of actually gems, right? So if you looked at actually the gem instruction here, so what we have is that you are cuti mana and then you have actually all the instruction, but we want to actually show some of actually the important stuff actually for a gem. Now, if you scroll down, you can actually see there is the tone component in a gem. So this tone component, if you look at it, is basically a persona. Now, this is actually very important. Why? Because when you have people talking to your agent or to your gem, to your chatbot, you want that engagement. You want it to be comfortable. Therefore, you define the persona for the agent. In this case, actually for the gem. I mean, a good example is actually how we did Cikgu Zekria. So Cikgu Zekria, we put it as an educator. We made it so that when she speaks, she has actually a bit of English, a bit of Manglish actually here and there. Imperfect. The reason is that we want her to actually sound like how we talk every day. So once actually that interface is done, it's easy for people to accept and it's easy for people to actually talk. They feel comfortable to inform the information, to inform the details that actually they need. If not, you'll get actually, I think you all actually seen some chatbots or some agents that is very robotic. Ah, nak bercakap lama pun tak nak. I think actually bank, bank actually agent sometimes is quite actually robotic. So you want to actually speak for a long time also, you need to explain also, you takut, right? So one is actually the tone, and if you zoom in ke bawah lagi, if you look at this, so what we have actually done here, the gem divides into two types of process. The three types of process. The first component, the first workflow is that it will ask the question. We have defined the question, we have defined the details, it will ask the question. And then after we have actually give them the answer, it will then confirm the plan, right? Confirm the plan. If you look at here, actually when the user confirm the plan, it will confirm the plan. So it will ask us to validate. This is very important in any process. Do not go auto. There must be human in the loop. Somebody needs to validate. Either validate very detailed or give them or empower them to actually just look at the high level. Just make sure that somebody actually validate, right? So once validation is done, the third process is the output. And if you look at the output here is that we requested it to generate a self-contained HTML, CSS itinerary. So what is that? It's basically a web page, an interactive web page that you can actually send to yourself through WhatsApp or Telegram. So it is basically, we are asking it to create a web app after it confirms our instruction, our itinerary. So let's try it out. Okay. Now, we understand actually some of you, this is actually the first time. So you don't know actually where gem is and so on. So what we have actually made it easy here is that actually we've created a button for you to click on it and it will go to your gem manager. So tak payah nak cari dekat dalam Gemini. Just click on create new gems and it will open up your gem manager. If this is actually something of a first time for you. So if you have done it before, you can just go to Gemini and actually look for gems. So the people who have not actually done it before, I don't think they're familiar where gem actually resides in Gemini. So you can just click create new gem. So before we do that, I'm going to click copy. So it will copy this text. And then I'm going to click create new gems. So it will go to a gem manager. So nampak ni gem manager. So dalam Gemini, kalau masuk, it will be like this. When you click open sidebar, you can actually see new chat, search chat, image, library, gems. Now, if you don't see this, what you can actually do is that go to the interactive slide study, click create new gems. It will force to actually go to that menu. Okay. So let's actually start our new gems. Simple aja, right? Click new gems here, right? So remember just now we've just actually copied actually that gems. You can actually paste it here, right? And you can give it actually a name. I'm going to call it Cuti Kat Mana, right? Because we have actually a lot of actually version Cuti Mana. We're going to call it Cuti Kat Mana. All right. So the description here, very important. Always put a description for your gems. Do not just put the prompt, put in a description so it's very clear what the gem does. Okay, cuti kat mana. Alright. So once you've done, jangan terus save and actually click chat. Belum lagi. Right. Now remember, our gems have actually 3 stage of actually process. The first stage, it asks actually the question that we have defined. The second stage, from the information that it has actually collected, it will then actually show, okay, did you say this? Did you confirm your information, or generate the itinerary based on the information given? Now, the third stage, it will then generate a web page or a web app for you. Now, to trigger that process, you need a tool. So it's the same thing if you want it to generate a documentation, to actually generate a guide. So you need to trigger a tool. So right now, there is no default tool. Now, if there is no default tool, ingat tadi mush, so it will guess. Sometimes it guess right, sometimes it guess wrong. Okay, so very important you define the tool. So we're going to actually select the tools. Now, are we creating a guided learning? No. Are we creating an image? No. Are we creating music? No. So we are creating canvas. Canvas is basically when you want to do code, when you want to do a web page, when you want to actually create document, you use canvas. Now, there is a section called knowledge. So knowledge is usually when you attach something that the gem needs to refer to. For example, process flows, or guidelines, or policies, or examples. Okay, so we don't have any examples or process flow here. We're just going to use the instruction and actually the default tools. Once this is done, click save. So once this is actually saved, it will say start chat. So let's try it out. And if you want to share, you have the share button here. You can click share. And you have the option to actually share. Right? Okay. So let's actually click start chat. Okay. With any gem, very important, since we have inserted the instructions, it's easy for people to interact with your gems. They don't need to know any prompt. They just need to say hi. So I'm going to say hi, because we have put in the instruction. So when you say hi or bagi salam or whatever, the gem will declare, okay, hi, cuti-cuti mana kali ni, where you're planning to take your family next. Drop a destination, travel dates, and we will start to build a very solid, stress-free itinerary. So yeah, where we want to go. So maybe we say we want to go to mana tempat yang okay. So let's say we want to actually go to Morib, right? Morib for 3 days. Ada apa bagi dia search, right? Morib 3 days. And if you want to put in terus one shot, how many people also can, 3 adults, driving. Let's see. I salah kira Morib pula. Morib. Dia betulkan. Boleh Morib, pantai Morib, 3 hari 2 malam untuk 3 dewasa naik kereta. First question, budget. Budget ialah meet. Previous class kita pergi London, kita pergi Japan, kita pergi Pulau Pinang. This class kita pergi Morib. cantik, mid-range, budget next up. What's your preferred strip style? Relax. Tak nak stress kan? Last question. Before I draft a plan, any specific must visit spot, must eat food like Tanjung Sepat, seafood ke apa? Yes. Seafood all the way. Yalah, pergi pantai Morik lah, seafood lah. So in our instruction, we ask it to actually look at Google Maps, look at actually the places, verify and actually look at actually the ratings of actually the places and suggest to us. So what it does now is that actually it creates a itinerary from KL to Banting, which actually stop dekat Morib and on the way to Morib and so on. So and even actually on every day berapa ringgit it will actually cost us. Kalau kita nak makan lah macam-macam. So it's seafood all the way. Ni seafood, ni seafood, ni seafood. So if you want to change, say for example, actually you don't want to eat dragon fruit, you want to eat something else, you can actually just say, I don't want dragon fruit, replace it with something. Now, if you look at it, right, this is one way to interact with an agent. You don't really have to prompt. You just answer questions and it basically generates for you an output. Now, this similar thing can actually be done to actually generate travel itinerary, meeting itinerary, meeting minutes based on actually documents we uploaded and following actually a certain structure, or even guidelines for actually students when they do assignments. You don't want, you basically had too many students asking the same questions. So what you do is that actually you upload all the FAQs into a gem, and then you just share the gem to the students and say, okay, if you have any questions, ask the gem first. If there are things that actually the gems cannot answer, you go back to me. Right? So once everything is done, it will actually create an itinerary. So this itinerary is not final. If you remember, we want it to basically, sampai 1,000 lebih. 3 adults ini betul-betul relax. Right. So if you remember, we wanted to actually do a web itinerary. So what we're going to do is that you will say, I put together a complete 3-day 2 nights Morib and Tanjung Sepat seafood itinerary. Seafood mahal kot. So verified halal seafood spot, stay recommendation, want me to generate? No, say yes. Again, you can modify the instruction, and this is just a template, a starting point for you. If you don't want it to be an itinerary, or you want it to be different, you can actually change actually the instruction. So remember we did Canvas just now. So it then triggers Canvas to generate the web app or the web page. Now, very important, lepas web page dah siap, once web page is actually finished, how can I download the web page? You can download it here. You see here, there is a download button. You can actually download it. It will download as an HTML file. You can send the HTML file to yourself, to your family, to your friends, or to your office mates in WhatsApp or Telegram or even email. Some people, what they did was they try to host the file. Can also be done. You can insert it in Google site, or you can basically just get a free hosting and just upload it in your free hosting. So done. We've created a simple itinerary web app. Tapi 1,343 tu agak mahal bagi 3 orang. Banyak juga dia makan, right? Right. So we have actually the seafood trip. We have made it interactive. We do even have the Google Maps link because kita dah masukkan. So if we were to actually do a prompt from this, it will take actually either you have to copy and paste a template prompt, or you have to do an iterative prompt. Means actually lepas keluar ubah, lepas keluar ubah. So the thing with Gemini is that it allows you to structure your questions and then your input, and then it takes actually your input, generates an output for you to confirm, and then generate the final product, or basically the final output, right? Again, what you have here still can actually be modified. So if you want to say actually too expensive, so what are my other alternatives? Now, if you notice, I didn't define what, I'm not asking it what are my other alternative. I just say too expensive lah. Let's see what kind of mush output it will reply, because kita tak specify kan. Is it something that we want? If we are lucky, it's something that we want. If we are not lucky, then it will actually pergi ke laut. Alamak, terlebih budget, no problem. Uncle, auntie adjust. Remember, we actually define the persona to be uncle, auntie. Kita slimkan grand total untuk 3 orang. 270 saja, still 800 is actually a lot. Right? Makan seafood macam ni, makan ikan bilis je lah. Shifted seafood dinners to Medan Selera Pantai Morib. Oh, we don't go to restaurant. Alright. Okay. So we are done. Again, kalau nak download, senang aja. Click this one, click download, and you can actually download your itinerary. Okay. So let's go back to Cikgu Zekria.
So even though our example today is a travel planning gem, the important thing is actually the pattern behind it. Persistent context, clear instructions, specific behavior, reusable workflows. And once you understand that pattern, you can apply it almost anywhere. Maybe a gem for lesson planning, maybe student email replies, maybe research summarization, meeting notes, marking feedback, onboarding guides, or even faculty administration tasks. The domain can change, but the structure stays very similar. And honestly, once educators start building gems around repetitive weekly tasks, that's usually when AI starts feeling genuinely useful instead of just interesting. All right, let's have a 10-minute break and you can try to build your first gem. You can paste your gem share link here. Don't worry if your gem is still simple. Okay je. The goal is not perfection. It's experimentation and sharing ideas with fellow faculty members. And who knows, your gem might inspire someone else's workflow as well. Selected submissions may also be featured in the Google AI Superpower University Showcase, together with your university and your work. So don't shy, yeah?
Okay, so if you have created your gems and you have or you have your existing gems, boleh paste your link here. Make sure you share your gems and then actually describe your gem and submit to our showcase. You can see that actually people have already started to submit. some of their jams here, macam-macam jam. Jam cuti tu melambak kat sini. Ada yang buat jam-jam yang lain-lain. So, kalau boleh jangan hantar jam cuti lah. Hantar actually jam yang lain-lain so that other people including yourself able to see some examples that's coming out from the showcase. Now, you can actually do this now or you can actually do this later. No problem. You can come back to actually this page later on. You can navigate to the page, build custom jam, go back to actually this section and upload and submit your information. Okay, so let's move on to the next session, to the next page.
Okay, before we continue, let's do one quick check-in for this module. These questions focus on the main ideas behind gems, especially why persistent context matters and how gems differ from normal one-shot prompting. Don't worry too much about memorizing technical details, yeah? The important thing is understanding the workflow and recognizing when a gem becomes more useful than repeatedly rebuilding prompts from scratch. Take your time and let's see how we do.
Cikgu, ada orang tanya, knowledge check ni mandatory ke? Do they need to actually really do it? And why? Why should they actually do knowledge check?
Mandatory? Not really, but I strongly recommend it. The knowledge checks are how participants earn points and get to see themselves on the leaderboard. Most importantly, it lets them test what they've learned so far and strengthens what sticks. So maybe they should just try them out.
Okay, suara cikgu bertukar-tukar lah.
Alah, Encik Azhan, saja nak test saya kan? Okay, maybe I wanted to sound a bit different just now. Am I back to normal now?
Okay lah, thank you. Okay, let's complete the knowledge check. A gem is best described as, bukan gem is short for Gemini, bukan. A reusable Gemini with persistent instruction. 3 points. The rest sila siapkan.
So here's a quick recap what we explored in this module. A good gem usually contains a clear identity, purpose, behavior rules, constraints, and sometimes examples to guide the output style. But more importantly, gems help us preserve context across conversations. Instead of repeating the same instructions again and again, we create the workflow once and reuse it whenever we need it. And that's where AI starts becoming less about prompting tricks and more about building practical systems that support our daily work as educators. All right, next, let's explore Gemini Notebook.
Okay, before we go to the next chapter, Cikgu, I need to just ask you a question. So, I built a gem today and shared it with my faculty members. 6 months later, the model has been updated, normal lah tu, and it behaved little differently. So, what do I do?
Interesting question, Cik Azhan. Yes, model updates are part of the game. What you should do is go back to the GEMS instruction and tweak that. Maybe add clearer rules or another example. Editing the instruction is like fixing the bug, not just iterating in the chat. Make sense? Oh, about the voice? Sometimes my connection might get a bit wobbly. Is it better now?
Okay. Dah nampak sikit-sikit, betul. Okay, one more question. Even a good gem can actually wander off ke laut lah, kan? In long conversation. How do I notice it and how do I pull it back without rebuilding the whole thing?
To notice it, just watch for when it starts giving answers that don't match your original persona or aim. Like if a friendly teacher suddenly becomes super technical, that's a red flag. You can pull it back by just telling it, Hey, remember persona to stay as a primary school teacher or stay focused on example from Malaysian.
Okay. Just like actually when I actually told you about actually your voice tadi lah.
Okay. Good connection. Just like you alerted me about my voice, you alert the gem when it starts to drift. No need to go back and rebuild. Just give direct feedback. Clever point, Cik Azhan.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, now we move into Gemini Notebook. One of the best ways to think about Gemini Notebook is this: it's a synthesis engine. You give it a collection of sources, and it helps transform those sources into different kinds of outputs while still keeping everything grounded and traceable back to the original material. Today, we're going to use a graphic novel workflow as our demonstration. But the bigger idea is actually much broader than comics alone. The same workflow can also turn source materials into podcasts, study guides, briefing documents, summaries, and other teaching resources. So let's explore how that works together, yeah? There are four main things we want to understand in this section. First, how Gemini Notebook works as a synthesis engine where one library of sources can produce many different types of outputs. Second, how grounding works, where every important claim can still be traced back to the original source material. Third, how we can chain a custom gem together with Gemini Notebook Studio to create a complete workflow from script generation to visual output. And finally, how this same pattern can be adapted for our own teaching and academic workflows, whether that's study guides, podcasts, summaries, or other learning materials. So, this is one of the biggest strengths of Gemini Notebook. Instead of asking AI to respond based only on general internet knowledge, Gemini Notebook works directly with your uploaded sources: PDFs, slides, research papers, websites, transcripts, and other materials. And from that same library, Gemini Notebook can generate many different kinds of outputs. Audio overviews can turn sources into podcast style discussions. Briefing docs can help summarize large collections of material. Mind maps make concepts easier to explore visually. Study guides can generate revision support for students. And today, we'll also see how studio slides can transform a written script into a visual graphic novel workflow. So the important idea here is not just AI generates content, but that one trusted source library can support many different learning and teaching formats while still remaining grounded to the original material.
Okay, Cikgu, a few questions lah, right? If I give actually students an audio overview podcast for reading, some will listen to that instead of actually reading the paper. Is that actually really a win or a problem? And how should I actually design around it?
That's a good point, Azhan. Whether it's a win or a problem really depends on your learning objective. If the goal is for them to just get the key ideas, then listening is a great win for accessibility. But if they need to analyze the text deeply, maybe you can design an activity that requires them to do both.
Oh, okay. The next part is actually, Cikgu, Gemini Notebook cites everything. But if I upload a weak and biased source, it faithfully cites that. So grounded is not really actually true lah kan?
Betul. Knowing what goes in is key. Gemini Notebook basically reflects whatever sources you give it. Think of it like choosing textbooks for your course lah. If the books are outdated, the course will be too.
Okay. Last question, boleh Last question. When I upload actually student work or a paywall chapter into a notebook, what should I be careful about that nobody actually mentions?
Okay, you got it. When uploading student work, you need to be really careful about privacy. Always remember which account you're using, institutional or personal Gmail. For paywall content, think about copyright restrictions and what your university's policy says about sharing that material. It's about being respectful data managers. What's next on the...
Okay. What's next? We're going to actually go next lah. So next.
Now, let's look at something very important for academic work: citations and grounding. On the left side, you'll see examples that look like citations, but they were actually generated by a normal AI chat system without proper source grounding. And this is where problems can happen, yeah? Sometimes the references look believable, but the source may not even exist. Now, compare that with the examples on the right. Every citation there points back to an actual passage from the uploaded source material inside Gemini Notebook. And honestly, this is one of the main reasons Gemini Notebook becomes much more defensible and trustworthy for academic workflows compared to using a normal chat prompt alone. So this workflow is actually a combination of two different tools working together. First, the graphic novel designer Gem helps generate the story structure, dialogue, and the retell prompt based on the content we provide. Then, Gemini Notebook Studio Slides takes that script as a source, applies the retell instructions, and transforms everything into a visual graphic novel format. And the nice thing is, we are not manually generating images panel by panel. The workflow stays much more structured, much more consistent, and much faster to iterate. So the important idea here is not just making comics actually, it's understanding how AI workflows can chain together, where one tool prepares the content and another tool transforms it into a different form. All right, now let's try the workflow ourselves, step by step. The good news is you don't need to build the designer gem from scratch today. It has already been prepared and shared for you. So first, click the green Open Designer Gem button on the screen. Once Gemini opens, give the gem your concept, answer the short interview questions it asks, and let it generate the story script together with the retell prompt. After that, we'll move everything into Gemini Notebook Studio Slides and paste and let Gemini Notebook transform the script into the final visual graphic novel output. This is usually the point where people suddenly realize how different AI workflows can connect together quite naturally, yeah?
Okay, so for our next activity or for our next live build, we're going to create a graphic novel or comic, right? So this exercise or this demonstration is to give you the basic of synthesizing one mode of content to another mode of content, yet faithfully retain all the content element. Okay. So what we're going to do here is using Gemini Notebook, because Gemini Notebook grounds actually the sources. Okay. So the first things first is that actually we have a graphic novel designer gem dah siap dah. So you don't have to do the gem. The gem is already there. The whole idea is also to have different tools as part of workflow. Jangan just go to the chat and actually prompt. You now have access to all the different tools, so you can actually mix and match. Somebody actually asked me yesterday in another class about, hey, I am interested in generating videos. Can I create a gem to prompt, to detail out actually the prompt for videos? Yes, actually you can just take the graphic novel designer gems instruction that we have here and just modify it to fit into a script with the outline of actually the prompt. So then you can actually feed it to either Google to actually your video generator for it to generate the clip. Okay, so let's actually try this one first. Quite simple. The gem that we're going to write will be a horror story, but for you guys, you can actually select whatever story you want to tell, right? The whole idea is that actually to show the example of actually taking one source and convert it to a different format for that source. Okay. So I'm just going to use actually create a horror story about a man and a haunted ketchup bottle. I'm going to just copy here. If you want it differently, you can just actually type in. So I'm going to click Open Graphic Novel Designer Gem. I'm going to click Open Graphic Novel Designer Gem. So it will open up Graphic Novel Designer Gem. Okay. So I'm going to put in the instruction here. Create a horror story about a man and a haunted ketchup bottle. Dark, scary, but add silly bits. So let's try it out. So if you don't want horror story, you can put in your own story. Tak apa, right? We're just going to go through it. I mean, you can have your own story. You can have your own tone, up to you. So it will say, I am a graphic novel architect. I will structure your script. But to construct your horror story about a haunted ketchup bottle, we need to complete phase 1, deep discovery. So ingat tak tadi kita buat gem for travel itinerary? Same thing. It will ask us question, then it will actually build the content based on our answer. So target audience will be teens and adults. And then tone is scary and silly. Yeah, kelakar. Right? Got it. Aim teens and adult, blending genuine spine-tingling or chilling horror with absurd dark comedy. Let's establish the story details, story concept, what is the core plot of the haunted ketchup bottle. Guys buys a sketchy bottle, picked up soy sauce. Okay, kita nak that. Elevates his fright lies and realize the sauce is actually alive, possessed by a demonic appetite and demands food sacrifice to stay tasty. How many pages? So it's going to be 5 to 10 pages. Oh, it's 5 to 10 pages. So story concept, how is premise sounds the plot. Okay, character's name, we're going to call him Bidin. Main character Bidin. Office worker and wearing office attire lah. Right? Okay. So art style can be gothic, minimalist, neo-noir, or actually modern shonen manga. This is up to you. You can try it out. I want to try actually maybe lepas tak ni? Because we've done this actually lots of actually time. And it's always shonen manga, Junji Ito, and so on. I wanted to try any lighten children book. Nah, tak pernah tengok horror story pakai any lighten children book. Okay. So then what it does is that it will create the curse of Chap Kicap Iblis. Okay. That's scary, right? And these are the cover page, the type panel, and the story line. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to actually copy this whole thing here. Let it generate, copy this whole thing. Click copy response. Go to Notebook LM. Okay. So let's actually go to Notebook LM or Gemini Notebook. Right. So click New Notebook. Okay. So you will get actually this. Pilih copy text, select copy text and just paste your text. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do some cleanups lah. I'm going to do actually this instruction cleanup. If we go actually at the top here, there is option A, cleanup. Right. And make sure everything is intact. Then insert. So once you insert, this becomes your source. This becomes your primary source. Now, it can be a copy and paste document. It can also be a PDF file. It can also actually be a website. So what Notebook LM or Gemini Notebook does is that it takes all those information and put it as actually source. Now, very important, if your website is gated, in other words, actually there is login required, it doesn't actually work. And also, if your content is copyright, if it's for your own use, it shouldn't be any problem. But if you are using the content for gains or to actually get money, just be careful about copyright. Okay, so it will complete the script here. So what we're going to do next, we're going to create a slide. Now, very important, kalau perasan, kat tepi sini ada slide deck. Don't click on it. If you click on it, it will read the whole transcript or the whole script, and it will just basically be an outline of the script. We don't want it to be an outline of a script. We want it to be a graphic novel. So what we do is that you see there is this arrow button. So click on the arrow button. You will actually get this customized slide deck and the information that you need to put. Now, we need to put a very simple prompt called retell my line. Retell actually the story. So if we go to back to our Gemini Gem study, right? If you notice here, you can put in what is my retell prompt line. Okay, so it says retell the story as a graphic novel, make the art style as actually Gothic minimalist. We don't want Gothic minimalist. We want it to be Enid Blyton children book. So what we're going to do is that we're going to just modify this. Go back to our Notebook LM. Paste this in. We're going to say make the art style Enid Blyton. So we'll take some time to actually generate. Meanwhile, I will actually show you some examples that we Blyton children book. Jangan dia keluar horror story. Pakai Nodi sudah. Right, Blyton betul ni Blyton. Okay, right. Then click generate. Right, so it will actually generate it. So just leave it be. Let's see it later. But here are some examples of what's going to happen once you actually done the prompt and actually generate the details. So let's look at this. This was done actually yesterday. No, this was done before. Okay. So this is an example. Yeah. So we use Gothic for this. Quite serious, right? So there are other examples. Let me see. Is it this one? Yeah. So this is something like a manga or a Japanese comic. So try it out. Do your own graphic novel and see. Gardenia bread also can lah, save from spirit. Tension jangan tutup. Right? I did this yesterday. I don't know if actually it oh yeah, jadi. Right. Okay. So you can actually run it. So that is one part. It's still actually generating slide deck. So let's wait for it later. So just run it and see how you can actually get your graphic novel. So the whole purpose of the exercise today is just generating graphic novel, right? But somebody actually asked this question, can we actually do video? Yes, you can, but the process is a bit different. Why? Because you have to use another tool. You cannot actually use the video overview. You cannot use the video overview. You have to use another tool. So what is this other tool? Okay, it's called Google Vids, and it is in your Google Drive. Okay, so what you can actually do is that go back to your output. So this is your output. If you look at actually the three dots here, there is an option for you to download as PowerPoint. So once you download it as PowerPoint, upload it to your Google Drive. Very important, upload it to your Google Drive so that it will become a Google slide. Okay, so once you have uploaded to Google Drive, let me just go to Google Drive and actually show. Right? So once you have uploaded to Google Drive, if you click New, there is an option here called Google Vids. Nampak tak? Ada Google Vids. Now, again, this is just add-on. Good to know. This is not the instruction to create the graphic novel. This is just good to know, right? Click Google Vids. This will come out and click Slides to Video. If you click Slides to Video, you can see the slides that you have uploaded, and you can turn this into a narrated video. So somebody asked this question, what is a narrated video and how this differs? How this is different from a graphic novel? Okay, so let's show a narrated video.
The Tale of Liquid Terror. Beeden worked late again. The city was asleep, but his hunger was wide awake. He found a deeply discounted soy sauce in the store. Despite the unsettling blood-red label, he figured it would do for his sadness rice. The bottle read, "The Evil Soy Sauce." Back home, he began drizzling the sauce onto his meal. The sauce pooled over his egg with a squelch, and a horrifying realization dawned on Beeden. Squelch! Squelch! He stared in disbelief. Did the sauce just pinch his egg? The ketchup bottle came alive with an accusing voice, criticizing his cooking and his life. The sauce manifested into a giant, demanding flavor, satay, anything but plain rice, while Beeden pleaded for it to leave him alone. Alone! In his panic, Beeden slipped on the spilled sauce and fell. The sauce entity enveloped him, warning him that he couldn't run from the sodium. The sauce forced him to taste it, asking if it was salty or sweet, as Beeden worried about his high blood pressure. Beeden was no longer afraid. He understood the curse now, finding the flavor to be nutty with a hint of caramel as he succumbed to the umami curse.
Yeah, last Beeden jadi Biden. Okay, right. So this is an example where you can actually take a graphic novel and then actually convert it. And also you can, even if you want to actually do it with your own slides, you can actually have it as a narrative, right? So it's something that you can actually use for lesson hook, just to get actually the attention for the students, right? So let's go back to the to Cikgu Zakia.
Why lah use a graphic novel format in the first place? Actually, combining visuals with text can significantly improve engagement, recall, and understanding, especially for complex concepts or introductory topics. For students, it can make difficult ideas feel more approachable. And for educators, it opens up new ways to present content beyond traditional slides or long blocks of text. So, this workflow is not really about replacing academic depth, yeah? It's more about exploring alternative ways to communicate knowledge, create curiosity, and support learning in formats that feel more accessible and memorable.
Okay, Cikgu. So, yeah, maybe actually we show one more example because tadi actually cerita hantu. Let's actually show one more example of what can actually be done. So, this is another use case that was actually done. It was actually used for Kazana. Let me just share the tab. So,
setiap perjalanan bermula dengan satu langkah. Bagi seorang graduan, langkah itu hadir bersama harapan, impian dan pelbagai persoalan tentang masa depan. Namun, dalam dunia yang sentiasa berubah, kejayaan bukan sekadar tentang mencari jawapan yang betul. Ia tentang memahami tujuan, membina nilai dan melangkah bersama ke arah impak yang lebih besar.
4 tahun pengajian akhirnya berakhir. Tugasan disiapkan, peperiksaan ditempuhi dan segulung ijazah kini berada di tangan. Tetapi apabila satu perjalanan berakhir, satu lagi perjalanan yang lebih besar bermula. Bersama ijazah itu, hadir pelbagai persoalan tentang kerjaya, masa depan dan tempat kita dalam dunia yang semakin kompleks.
Ramai graduan berhadapan dengan persoalan yang sama. Di manakah lokasi terbaik untuk membina kerjaya? Bagaimana untuk membalas pengorbanan keluarga? Adakah kemahiran yang dipelajari hari ini masih relevan dalam era kecerdasan buatan? Dan yang paling penting, apakah sebenarnya definisi kejayaan? Soalan-soalan ini tidak mempunyai jawapan yang mudah, tetapi ia merupakan titik permulaan kepada pencarian yang bermakna.
Kita sering mendengar nasihat supaya mengikut minat. Namun, minat sahaja tidak datang bersama peta atau panduan yang jelas. Tanpa arah yang betul, seseorang boleh bergerak dengan penuh semangat tetapi tidak sampai ke destinasi yang diinginkan. Justru, persoalannya bukan sekadar apa yang kita minati, tetapi bagaimana minat itu dapat diterjemahkan kepada nilai dan impak yang sebenar.
Dari perspektif organisasi pelaburan.
okay, so yeah, same methodology using actually the content to generate it as a graphic novel, except actually this one doesn't move actually as much. They are using it for presentation and as actually presentation to actually students. Okay, so we try to show some examples a bit easier. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, Cikgu, proceed. Cikgu dah buat muka dah.
Okay, if you've managed to generate your graphic novel, this is the time to share it with everyone. You can download the PDF and upload it in Google Drive. Please share the link here. Don't worry too much about whether the output looks perfect, okay? The goal is to experiment, explore ideas, and see how different educators approach the same workflow differently. Some of the submissions may also be featured in the Google for Education University Showcase. So don't be shy, yeah? We genuinely love to see what all of you created.
Okay, look at your graphic novel kalau dah siap. Kalau belum siap, you can upload it later. You can also see other graphic novels that was actually done by other other faculty members. Ada macam-macam. Kejap. me see if we can open it up. Yeah. So there are actually some examples. So yeah, you can actually try it out. And try not to actually do horror story. So this is one of the examples that was actually done. Buku yang hilang, right? Done by another faculty member. So try it out and upload your story. Kita orang pun nak tengok macam mana. If everything is actually okay, boleh access. We're going to actually publish it in the showcase, yeah? All right. So take your time. Later on, you can go back to this page again. Go to your navigation here. Go to Gemini Notebook, and you should be able to access to this. Okay, let's move on to the next chapter.
All right. Before we wrap up this section, let's do one quick check-in together. These questions focus on the main ideas behind the workflow we just explored, especially how Gemini Notebook uses grounded source material and how the Gem and Gemini Notebook Studio work together as part of the same chain.
To see what you guys actually going to do, right? So let's move on.
So, before we move into the final section, let's quickly recap the bigger idea behind this workflow. Today, we used Gemini Notebook to transform a script into a graphic novel. But the more important concept is that Gemini Notebook can take one trusted library of sources and transform it into many different forms of learning materials. That could be podcasts, study guides, summaries, briefing documents, revision materials, or visual storytelling workflows like the one we explored today. And because everything stays grounded to the original sources, the workflow becomes much more reliable and much more suitable for academic environments. All right, take a short break, stretch a little, refill your coffee maybe, and we'll come back for the final wrap-up together, yeah?
Okay, so Gemini Notebook and Graphic Novel Studio. This is an example what you can actually do with the synthesis engine. So what we have also here is that if you look at actually how we are doing actually this webinar is that if you look at it, it's basically giving you guys as much of examples of what you can do with AI for content. Macam-macam. You can incorporate AI into your slides. You can create a slides as you can see here as a tracking slides, where when you do the activity, you are able to track actually the traction or the feedback actually given. That is one part. What we did also, we incorporate actually Gemini Live into the slides. So that's why I can actually spar with Cikgu Zakaria. We can actually talk to each other as part of explaining the high-level concept and things. Okay? And it is actually done real time. It's not scripted. And then what we have here also, to make it easy, we have an example here that we did. What we did was actually we took all the exercise book for secondary school, and we push it to Gemini notebook, one notebook for one, because we don't want it to be hallucinating. So even if it's grounded, so what we did was actually one notebook for actually one exercise book. And we also pair it with the DSKP curriculum document to just make sure that it's very clear in terms of how it needs to define the lesson. And we have created a simple site. Now, these are all byte coded using, you can actually use Gemini, you can use anti-gravity, or you can even use Cloud Code or what. But the whole idea is that taking data or taking the content, pushing it or put it inside Gemini Notebook, and then let Gemini Notebook to generate the content for you and make sure that it's grounded. So let's look at an example. So these are all tingkatan 1, tingkatan 2, form 1 until form 5 content for actually sejarah. I click at tingkatan 3. My daughter is actually tingkatan 3. So what we have actually done here is that we've put in an evaluation, simple evaluation. You answer the quiz and it will evaluate your understanding of it. We link it back to the notebook so the students are able to ask the question direct to actually the Gemini notebook in case they need more clarification for it. We also got Gemini notebook to generate content based on the textbook, based on the different chapters. So let's look at Pentadbiran Negeri Selat. So these are all different chapters generated in Gemini notebook. The video.
Hai semua dan selamat datang ke sesi penerangan kita. Hari ini kita akan bincangkan satu bab yang sejujurnya sangat dekat dengan kita, iaitu pembentukan negeri-negeri selat. Ini merupakan bab 2 dalam silibus sejarah tingkatan 3 anda. Kita akan telusuri topik ini dengan tenang dan teratur supaya anda...
So this is a revision site. This is not to replace the textbooks. It's a revision site. You basically go to school, read the textbook, understand. You need to revise, do revision for exam. You need to understand actually concepts. You basically actually use this site and its content. There's also a podcast.
Bayangkan negara anda ya. Maksud saya budaya, geografi dan sejarahnya dibelah dua secara tiba-tiba. Bukan melalui peperangan yang dahsyat dan bukan juga melalui persetujuan rakyat.
Ya, ia sekadar dibelah dengan sebatang pen. Sebatang pen yang dipegang oleh dua orang lelaki Eropah yang...
So again, this is an example of the synthesis engine actually working for us. We can generate infographic and list out actually all the toko. So we basically ask it to actually list out all the toko, and then from here pull this information and actually put it into the site, pull in the timeline, highlight actually the istilah, and also list out the soalan kebat, and then just do a quiz. So this is what you can actually do. This is an example for actually form 1 until 5 book because it's public domain. If you have, or if you want to actually do it with your coursework or with your course content, you can actually do it. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can actually do it part by parts. Things that will help the students understand a bit easier in terms of certain concept. It's easy to actually do this. All right. going back to Cikgu Zaifia.
All right, welcome back everyone. We're now entering the final part of today's session. A short wrap-up on responsible AI use, a quick recap of the main workflows we explored, and a few small next steps for you to continue experimenting after today. After the live session, there'll also be a short self-paced section that you can complete later before claiming your certificate. And honestly, this final part is probably one of the most important sections, yeah? Because learning the tools is one thing, but learning how to use them responsibly and meaningfully is something else entirely. So, for this final section, there are a few simple things we want to focus on together. First, some practical principles for responsible AI use in academic environments. Second, a quick recap of the main patterns and workflows we explored throughout today's workshop. And finally, one small experiment or idea that you can realistically try this week in your own teaching, research, or academic workflow. Because honestly, meaningful adoption usually doesn't happen from trying 10 new things at once. It usually starts with one small workflow that genuinely makes your work a little easier. So before we finish, let's talk a little about responsible AI use, especially in academic environments. There are 4 simple principles I'd really encourage all of us to remember. First, always declare AI use when appropriate. Transparency matters. Second, verify important information before publishing or sharing it, especially citations, references, or factual claims. Third, keep a human in the loop. AI can assist with thinking, drafting, or organizing ideas, but ultimately, academic judgment still belongs to us. And finally, teach with AI instead of pretending AI does not exist. Students are already using these tools, yeah? So part of our role now is helping them learn how to use AI responsibly, critically, and ethically.
Cikgu, one question actually, keep human in the loop, but if you are like actually having 200 scripts, nobody actually checks every line. Where does verification actually breaks? And how do I be honest about that instead of actually pretending?
That's a very real challenge, Azhan. Verification breaks when volume becomes unmanageable, so you can't check every single script. To be honest, maybe you can focus on spots where the AI commonly makes mistakes, or check just a random sample and be transparent about that to everyone. Pretending will only cause problems later. What do you think?
Ya, betul lah tu kan.
Okay, on this slide, you'll see a few realistic situations that many educators may eventually encounter. Things like using Gemini to support marking, checking citations inside a draft paper, or responding when a student openly admits using AI for an assignment. And honestly, these situations usually don't have one perfect universal answer. The goal here is not really to catch people out. It's more about thinking carefully about judgment, transparency, academic integrity, and where AI appropriately fits within our own teaching practice. So take a moment, think through each scenario, and see how you would personally approach it. So, before we end the live session, let's quickly look back at the main patterns and workflows we explored together today. We started with the parts framework for building clearer and more reliable prompts. Then we explored custom gems, how persistent instructions and reusable context can help support repetitive academic workflows more consistently. After that, we connected gems with Gemini Notebook and saw how one trusted source library can be transformed into different forms of learning materials while still staying grounded to the original sources. And you don't need to implement everything immediately, okay? Pick one small experiment to try this week. One workflow, one use case, one small improvement that genuinely helps your own work. That's usually how meaningful adoption begins, yeah?
And that brings us to the end of the live session. Honestly, thank you so much for spending the past 2 hours exploring, experimenting, and learning together with us. Thank you for trying the activities, testing the prompts, building the gems, and sharing your ideas along the way. And of course, a very special thank you as well to Google for Education, the Ministry of Higher Education, and the university team for supporting today's session and helping create opportunities for AI literacy and experimentation in higher education. I'm Cikgu Zekria, your AI teacher for today's workshop, and from here, I'll hand things over to Encik Azhan, who will guide you through the remaining wrap-up activities live. Thank you everyone. Take care. Jangan lupa prompt tau.
Okay, so we've completed the webinar. Now, next page, please actually give yourself rating. Terima kasih semua. Jangan keluar dulu. Fill in actually the forms first. Nak letak confident pun boleh, practicing pun boleh. Can actually put it in. Then submit. Then go next. Now, which of these you actually going to try this week? Next. And then we're going to have a face-to-face session with, I think with UMPSA next month. So what do you want to see, right? We've done the Nobu LM and we've done a bit of the gems. So if you want to see more, you want to see maybe vibe coding, or you want to see more about actually custom gems, just highlight apa yang you nak tengok. Share how you plan to use Gemini, be actually custom gem. Share how you want to will be actually literature review. And then actually face to face, kalau berminat boleh klik yes, and then kalau tentative you can maybe, and so on. So for the face-to-face continuation, what do you want to actually do or try out in the session? Just inform. Okay. So thank you so much. Dah siap. Alhamdulillah. Click finish. And we have completed the session. Now, I've opened up the... kat atas sekali siapa? Aziman. Wow. Okay. We have actually opened up the chat and the mic control. Kalau ada sesiapa nak tanya soalan, boleh tanya soalan.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Ya.
Saya Aziman.
Oh ya.
Saya rasa saya pun sendiri banyak belajar adalah belajar benda baru daripada sesi ni.
Alhamdulillah.
Very good. Very good. Kita panggil very good sharing lah. Cuma saya pandangan saya lah. It's very good. Methodnya. Cuma untuk next, maybe kita boleh design a more optimized, kita panggil optimize and tailor-made punya orang kata content. Yang you dapat feedback tu saya rasa bagus juga, yang you collect kata tu, maknanya kita boleh buat some kind of what to expect lah, right? Tapi maybe not well described. So maybe next kita boleh macam nak kata crowdsourcing tak kita get feedback what is the painful for the lecturer and educators to implement AI, or maybe without AI what is the pain they are experience in teaching. So that is maybe we can pick what is the common pain, and then we design into a kind of sharing apa benda daripada Encik Zakri. Macam mana AI ni boleh diguna untuk apa? Untuk resolve that pain lah. For example, contoh lah kan, contoh nak buat kita nak buat grup pelajar. Grup pelajar, kita ada senarai nama, kita ada let's say maklumat CGPA dia, kita tahu gender dia, kita tahu races dia, kita ada term kita tak nak lah all gender, all budak pandai belaka. Maybe kita boleh guna Gemini untuk buat group. Tapi according to our term, mesti campur, mesti ada variation of pandai tak pandai, kan, kenal tak kenal, it doesn't matter, kan. So supposedly dalam group tu lah dia baru belajar kenal-kenal ni. So for example, so I don't know whether that is a pain for other lecturer. For me, benda macam tu dah settle lah untuk saya. Jadi for other lecturers, that we may gather the kind of feedback first, and then Encik Zakri lah do the sharing. Macam tu lah contoh. Itu pandangan saya lah. Allah Allah.
Okay, terima kasih. No problem. Just actually insert the feedback nanti kat dalam ni ya. Kalau nampak face-to-face continuation, ada others ni, put in actually the details. Now, kita dah pernah buat something similar. It is actually more towards Gemini Canvas, di mana and kalau nak tengok tools yang lain ada juga, di mana it does data analysis and it helps with actually distribution and so on. So kalau ada permintaan boleh je tunjuk, boleh buat, no problem. Okay. So next question, boleh tuan tunjuk semula macam mana nak buat website semasa buat GEMS tu dan di mana nak cari canvas. Okay, saya tunjuk. Time ni lah nak tunjuk. Kejap ya. Alright. So, when you create, bila create GEMS tu, kita pergi kat sini tadi okay. First of all, dekat dalam instruction kita, ni kalau kita gunakan GEMS. Kalau kita tak gunakan GEMS, kalau kita nak just actually freestyle, buat prompt aja, this is the prompt. This is actually the prompt. Kejap. Mana. Produce a complete self-contained HTML CSS itinerary. So this is one component. The keyword here is HTML CSS. Kalau tak letak HTML CSS, say for example, kita letak web ataupun kita kata website, dia kadang-kadang akan menggunakan bahasa lain ataupun teknologi lain to generate the website. Example, it can use JavaScript ataupun React script di mana is not too user friendly and cannot be done standalone. So apa yang saya buat ialah saya letak ni self-contained HTML CSS, right? So you can do a lot of things with this. You can even generate, ada satu saya generate a simple gem yang boleh buat dashboard. So the other part ialah nampak kat sini default tool, pilih canvas. Canvas dia kat sini. Kalau kita buat kat dalam Gemini, dia punya tools dekat plus ni. Canvas kat sini. Nampak? Canvas is to code, write and actually make slides. Now, another example of actually GEMS, kalau kita nampak kat sini, sekejap saya tengok, banyak sangat cuti. Dashboardmu juga. So this is a very simple gem. Apa yang dia buat ialah kita inputkan dia, beritahu dia kita nak dashboard apa. I want a research dashboard, and then validate apa benda semua. One research repository, list all the research submission, submit by faculty, and then it will generate for you. Once dia dah confirm, generate for you a dashboard. Now this is actually good kalau kita nak buat a simple mock-up of data visualization, right? So dia bukan je itinerary, macam-macam boleh buat. You want to do a mock-up website pun boleh. right? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Boleh belajar how to develop latihan okey je tadi. Okay, the whole process will be, first of all, kumpulkan semua content. In this case, what we did was actually kita kumpulkan semua buku dalam PDF. Sejarah tingkatan 1, sejarah tingkatan 2, sejarah tingkatan 3, semua dalam PDF. And then we started to generate the content by chapter. So basically, allow Gemini Notebook to read. So this is the Gemini Notebook. Ya, saya masuk. Okay. So this is the Gemini Notebook that actually generates the content. Nampak tak? The Gemini Notebook reads the buku teks, and then what it does is like bagi setiap bab kita prompt or kita put an instruction to actually generate each of the different synthesis, different content by synthesis. So ada video, ada podcast, ada grafik. So that is one part. Okay, and then dah siap semua, baru we vibe coded the website and then host it dekat Cloudflare free. Dah settle. So if we have time, masa face to face nanti, put this in as part of the things that you nak belajar. If there is enough people request for vibe coding, we'll do an exercise for vibe coding. At least that first structure tu boleh settle. Alright. So next, untuk kehadiran CPD, mohon klik pautan tersebut. Okay, ada pautan CPD. And then next, how to browse the selected showcase. Now the showcase page is actually in here. You can go to either Gemini Notebook or Custom Gem. Let's just go to Gemini Notebook. And if you look at the submission, there is a showcase link here. So click on the showcase. You should be able to see it here. So that is actually one way. Another way ialah if you go to aisuperpower.my. So let me just go to aisuperpower.my. Right? So this is our program site. The showcase is here. The link to the showcase is here. Click on it and you'll get actually a list of all the showcase. Right? Okay. Done. Ada apa-apa soalan lain? Boleh untuk prompt gems itu kita boleh tanya Gemini, boleh tanya Gemini, tapi human in the loop. Please make sure you verify. Jangan semua auto. Nanti jadi lain. Yes. You ask Gemini to generate the instructions and then you just verify saja. Make sure and then tweak it. Right? Don't take 100% content of AI. Alright. Ada apa-apa soalan lain? Good feedback. We hope apa-apa yang ditunjukkan kat sini, this is just sikit aja, macam-macam lagi boleh tunjuk, but because of different understanding, we had to show sometimes siapa yang dah terror tu the basic one first lah. So during actually face to face, if ada banyak permintaan untuk more advanced things and actually more structured things, we will actually show. Right? We've done it for actually some use cases, and we can actually show. So kalau tak ada apa-apa soalan, terima kasih. Jumpa lagi for the next session. Assalamualaikum. Have a good day.